Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I don't even know where to begin with this one. Let's just jump into JOK, who he is as a prospect, what his film looks like, what his role was within Notre Dame defense. Welcome back, y'all. This is Rufio here again, just trying to break down some of the Cleveland Browns 2021 draft class. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, or JOK as they call him, I think is going to be a fantastic addition to this Browns team in a spot of need, right? He's going to play linebacker for us, and I think that was really a spot that headed into the draft, if we had a weakness on the roster, that was it. So, overall, this is combining, one of my favorite prospects in the draft, one of the best fits, I thought, for the Browns, need with a player who I think is going to be absolutely outstanding. So this was a home run pick to me, in the second round when, he was still on the board and kept kind of falling and falling. I was pacing around my house like crazy, trying not to get my hopes up about the Browns drafting this guy. And sure enough, we moved up, got him, and we brought him home to Cleveland. So let's just jump into JOK and look at who he is as an athlete first. So we had no NFL Combine this past year, so this is JOK's pro day film. Him running around in kind of his underwear here, but it just what an impressive and unique athlete, I feel like. That is a 36.5-inch vertical jump, by the way. That's very explosive. So, I think at this pro day, JOK checked a few boxes. You saw from that intro graphic, he weighed in at 221. This is a guy that, according to some reports, played at 210 or even less than 210 this previous year. So when you see him on film, he maybe doesn't look quite as filled out as he does at his pro day. And I think we as the Browns, trying to play him at will linebacker, we're going to probably want to keep him at that 220 or above. So I think that is one reason that JOK did fall in the draft. But man, when you watch him move and explode through these bags, the explosiveness, the agility, he's running out of the camera frame. The camera can't keep up there because of how quickly he moves, goes from 0 to 100. And, if we just look at him kind of running these drills at his pro day, we can see, his kind of body type, right? So he's a long guy. He looks like a wide receiver there going up to high point of football. That's not what you typically see from linebackers. And so I think that's one of the reasons he fell is NFL teams had a hard time kind of projecting him and how he fits in the NFL. I think they also have a hard time, honestly, looking past their current scheme and trying to figure out what NFL teams are going to be doing in the future, where offense is going in 2021, and how they need to defend that. So I think we're a little bit ahead of the game with this pick. This is the kind of prospect I anticipate will be coming out more and more out of college programs, and more NFL teams will need to be able to know how to utilize a guy like this. So, obviously with the pro day, we can see, his measurements, his measurables. I think that, again, the fact that he is, 6'1 plus, he's 220. Yes, that is small for a linebacker. I don't think that's unheard of. You see he has very long arms, which we'll look at on tape, how that kind of plays into his, his play style. And then we see explosiveness, right? That 36.5-inch vertical. That is a DB vertical, right? His broad jump is explosive. His short shuttle was explosive. This guy is a fluid, explosive athlete. You hear that term twitchy, right? Twitched up. This is a twitchy athlete, right? The kind of initial quickness and acceleration that he has is incredible, and it shows both in the workouts and on the film. Now, just some stats about his length. First of all, it's a little odd, right? Like typically linebackers are not the longest guys, and so I think that's, especially with how that's a part of the way he plays, I think that's one of the reasons NFL teams had a hard time projecting him. Second, I think with that wingspan, there's a lot that we can do with it, right? He has got a +4 wingspan, and that is, if you follow the Cavs, the NBA at all, that is a half-inch shorter than Colin Sexton's differential between his height and his wingspan, right? Typically, those NBA players have really long arms. Well, JOK has those long arms. In fact, JOK has longer arms than Joe Thomas. His arms were as long as Rashawn Slater, who I thought was the best and most complete lineman in this draft. And his arms are an eighth inch? I'm sorry, quarter inch shorter than Penei Sewell's, who was the top 10 pick on the offensive line. And so we're talking about mammoth offensive line prospects. JOK has that type of arm length, and he's able to use that. Now, with the explosiveness, I'm going to just let this clip play because this is JOK on a kickoff coverage unit. This is where those explosiveness numbers come in and where the jump numbers come in, right? This is the kind of athlete that we are getting. I've never seen a guy go from being off the screen or kind of unnoticeable in film to all of a sudden he's on the screen and making a big hit, right? That is the closing speed we love to see, especially coming forward. And here is another example of him using that kind of burst and closing speed coming forward. This is against Clemson. We're going to see him actually come in on a blitz, begin to play the run, but instead of just tackling the ball carrier, he is there before the ball carrier can even get a grip on the football, and he just takes it away and goes to score a touchdown. I mean, this is incredible.
8 points you leave on the table against a great team. Oh, on the toss, it's in the hands of Owusu-Koramoah, who will score! Touchdown! And this, you're going to see him here. Amari Rogers is supposed to block him, but he blitzes. Etienne takes his eye off it, sees him, takes his eye off the pitch. It's a touchdown for Notre Dame. Great players making great plays in the moment.
So, this is a play that, obviously the running back kind of bobbled the pitch there, but there is no way number 6 should be right there to hit him, to light him up as soon as he gets his hands on that ball. So this is the reason that he took his eyes off of it, is because you had number 6 closing in on you like a heat-seeking missile, and you were supposed to have him blocked, but something happened, right? And you see this time and time again. He is too quick in the short area for players that are supposed to be able to block him to actually be able to block him. And he's able to bend angles and make plays that other players couldn't make. So there is a fluidity and an explosiveness to his game, especially coming forward, that you really see and that really pops in every film that you put on. All right, so I can't resist. Here's another great example of JOK's explosiveness coming forward. I mean, this guy's just fun to watch, right? There are people that should be blocking him. He's often too quick for them to block, too explosive, too slippery for them to block. And then once he gets by that block, man, he can deliver some punishment.
In the ACC, Mike.
Yeah, no kidding, Jack. Oh, my goodness, what a hit.
It's been a long time coming for the veteran running back. Oh, Rodgers in the flat is met immediately by Owusu-Koramoah.
Back, that's when he recognizes, gets right by the potential block. Boy, that's a good hit.
So, I mean, this is a wide receiver, right, that is supposed to block him, 6. And he is too quick and too slippery for a wide receiver, okay? And then once he arrives, the slot receiver is not even ready for someone to be in his face yet because no one should be able to touch him. I mean, he's just in there so quick. Again, explosive player moving forward, incredible athlete, right? So his speed really jumps off the tape. And when you look at him with the measurables, where do you see that playing out? This is where you see it. All right, so JOK is this unique athlete, this unique, talent. A kind of a new school guy. So what did he do at Notre Dame, right? Let's look at what he actually did on a football field. So this is part of the reason I think NFL teams passed on him earlier, was, because they weren't quite sure, what do we do? And to be honest with you, I think this is another example of kind of NFL thinkers being a little stuck in the mud, being a little behind the times, not having an open mind. Right, and being a little cautious. I think overly cautious. But that's probably a story for another day. So this is what he did at Notre Dame. He is playing on the edge of the defense. And Brian Kelly had a great quote. His head coach, he said, whatever NFL team chooses him, they are going to have to make sure he has a role, and they slot him into a clearly defined role, define that role for him. And for us, for Notre Dame, that role was he was going to play at the edge of our defense, right? And what he meant by that, number one, is you've got a guy with such a vast athletic skill set that he could do a lot of things if you wanted. But, I think it's a kind of a polite way of saying he's maybe not the most cerebral player, right? This is a player that thrives off of instincts. He thrives off of just what do I see, what do I feel, and he's maybe his strength isn't memorizing coverage rules and pass rush rules and all these different sets of things that you need to go well, right? You need to put him in a place where he can just stop thinking and just go. Which is not necessarily bad. I think he'll have to get a little bit better at that in the NFL, and he will as time goes on. But I think having a clearly defined role of like, hey, this is what we need you to do, right? That's going to help him out. So in Notre Dame's defense, it was we need you to play on the edge, right? We need you to play these alleys, running, outside runs, anything out there, any kind of screen, bubble screen type of action. We need you on that. And then there were times where they would fold him in to play like a more conventional linebacker as well. So typically he would be aligned in this position here, which is really just a slot corner, right? He is a slot corner. This is a wide receiver. He's a slot corner playing out over a wide receiver in space, and this is where he thrives, right? On these kind of edges in the flats of the defense. Now, this is the first play, offense play of the game for Bama, and they are starting out 5 wide. They want to take this Notre Dame defense apart and see, hey, how do they react to, trips into the boundary side of the formation, right? How do they react to 5 wide? How do they react to, okay, we got a tight end that we split out wide or a back that we split out wide? What are these, all these versatile pieces in Notre Dame's defense? What are they going to do? How are they going to play us? So they start line in a 5 wide, and you see that Notre Dame is kind of checking, and Bama checks as well. And so this is the versatility of JOK. He becomes an inside the box 4-3 linebacker, right? He just was playing a slot corner type of position, and now he basically came in. We'll see from the end zone angle. He comes in and tells his buddy, "Hey, Mike linebacker, I'm in here with you. Bump on over. You play Mike. I got this, weak side linebacker spot, and now I'm playing a will linebacker." And this is the spot that I think the Cleveland Browns are going to start him in. I think he in sub packages in certain, down and distance situations, we can start doing some more things with him because I think he has a lot to offer. But this is where, Joe Woods and company have said that that's going to be his home for the Cleveland Browns. So you see him doing this on film. You see him out wide in that slot corner position on film. You also see him in kind of an edge rushing, like a 3-4 outside linebacker position on film. And he can do a number of things from any of those 3 positions. All right, so here is JOK in that kind of 3-4 outside linebacker type of position. You see him kind of stem into it on the snap, and we're going to see him actually rush the passer as an edge rusher from this position as well. So here, he's using that burst coming forward. He's using those long arms to get the arms of the tackle off of him. And whereas the quarterback can kind of throw this ball in rhythm, 1, 2, 3 balls out, if he does not and has to go to his second or third read, that is a clean hit on the quarterback right there. So as we're going to be able to see from the end zone angle, right, here he is, kind of this edge position, kind of a stand-up 9 outside, right? We have a blocker for him. 79 is the tackle. He's a blocker for him. And this is not, a weak ACC team. This is Georgia that we're looking at here. Owusu-Koramoah is able to use that length. You see he would go for that kind of club down move with that inside arm. But the tackle isn't even able to slide out there anyway. He's got to break his pass slide and completely turn his shoulders to even get a hand on JOK. And as I said, if that ball does not come out, that quarterback is getting hit. So that is a pass rush win. So this is another spot where we can play him. You start thinking about blitz packages. You start thinking about third down, getting creative. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, and we got Owusu-Koramoah coming off the edge as well. This is music to my ears, right? So those are kind of the 3 spots that you see JOK in, right? We see him on the edge as he is here, right on the edge up at the line. We see him in the kind of the defensive backfield as a traditional kind of stack stand-up linebacker. And then most of the time where he played in Notre Dame was out over the slot as kind of a slot corner. And so, I think based on his size and just what he looks like, you look at the measurables, right? People say he's a linebacker safety hybrid, and I don't even know that that's actually accurate, right? In terms of how he played at Notre Dame and what I think he's good at on the field at this point. Because, when you say safety like that, we think of a player who's playing in more of a deep role, right? Who's playing off the line of scrimmage, who's playing a deep coverage responsibility, and then occasionally might be walked up into the box like that traditional linebacker. That is not what JOK did, right? He didn't play vertically deep in the defense back here. He was playing at the edge, kind of all along the edges of the defense within that first 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. That's where he lined up in college. All right, so we've seen JOK, playing out in space, playing in that box, playing up at the edge on the line of scrimmage. Here he is playing out in space as that kind of nickel player out over the slot, right? If you think about a base 4-3 defense, you got your 4 down linemen, you got 3 linebackers. Well, what happens, right, when the offense goes spread? When they put trips out to the right, to the wide side of the field, how does the defense respond? Do you take a linebacker off the field, put a corner on? Do we have to go dime at this point? How do you react to personnel? Meaning, is this a tight end? And in this case, it is. Is it a wide receiver? Is it a running back who's split out wide? How do you react to the people that are moved around? And then how do you react to where they are and where they line up in a formation, right? Because different guys can get to different places on the field based on where they start. And a tight end who's lined up in like a H-back, position might have a different set of things that he can do from that space than he can do from out wide. So, as a defensive coach, the more versatile guys that you have, the more that you can match up with that type of player. And here, JOK is just going to be his normal athletic, slippery self. And it's going to be a wide receiver bubble screen out to the right. Now, in theory, right, Georgia has outcoached Notre Dame here because in theory, we've got 1, 2, 3 blockers, and Notre Dame has 1, 2 defenders, if you count that corner, who is, 8 to 10 yards off that line of scrimmage at the snap. So if we get the ball to our third player in space, we should have guys to block the other 2, and we should have him unblocked all the way up to the safety or whatever kind of inside linebacker pursuit coming to chase him out to the sideline. We should be able to get a number of yards here. Well, JOK breaks that equation, right? He recalculates that arithmetic because we've seen a lineman be too slow to block him. Well, here, a tight end is too slow to block him too. I've seen receivers be too slow to block him. And he just is able to slip right on by, break that block's leverage, and then finish the play by making a tackle for loss in the backfield. So, this is what you want to see out of that kind of first-round talent. You want to see a guy who, even though they had it schemed up to beat him, he was still able to do something special to make the numbers better in your favor, beat the player in front of him, and then beat another guy making a tackle in space. So, again, this is not just against the ACC. You see him do it against the ACC and the teams in Notre Dame typically plays and did play during the pandemic. But this is against the SEC team here as well, a team that recruits as well or better than 99% of the teams in the country, maybe all better than all but Bama, Ohio State, and Clemson. Or maybe they're even in that mix, right? So these are players with the talent who are not able to block JOK even though they should be able to. All right, so here we go again. JOK lined up in the slot. This time he is over what I believe to be a wide receiver. I think this guy's number is 17. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Georgia fans, but that seems like a wide receiver number to me. So anyway, he's out here over the slot playing in space. Again, we have this kind of play action, and it's going to be a dump down, right? And what we should have here is 1, 2, 3 receiver flood against 2 players in coverage, right? They brought everyone else up to stop the run. And so we should have a open player and a completion here. And that player is trying to block JOK. I don't know if he's a receiver. I don't know if he's a tight end. Whatever he is, Jeremiah has the length and he knows how to use it to be able to stack that blocker and then just slip on through, right? And that is length and athleticism coming together. That's his fluidity coming together. He's able to get through that, should make a tackle in the backfield here, but isn't quite able to bring this player down. But he's able to slow that guy down enough that this turns from, you can imagine this running back catching the ball in space here, turning the corner. That could be a big chunk play, right? A 20-yard play. Turns it into instead a 2-yard gain. Because he's able to get enough of that guy to slow him down and allow his teammates to get there and kind of, again, recalibrate that arithmetic out in that space. I believe this play should have been a block in the back, and excuse me, this is a tight end ball carrier. It should have been a block in the back. We see that player's clearly beat here, and then just gives JOK a kind of a little shove to get him on past the tackle. In fact, that was good enough contact by JOK to make a fumble happen here, to force a fumble. I think Georgia's fortunate that ball bounced right back up into that tight end's hands. And this is the kind of play he can make. He can get out there in space. He can make hits. He can close on people. He can stack and shed blockers. The guys that should be big enough to block him are usually not quick enough. The guys who are quick enough to block him usually don't have the length or the power to be able to keep him blocked, right? He's the guy that doesn't stay blocked on film. So here we see fighting through what I think should have been a penalty, playing against a much quicker, what should be a much quicker player, still able to get his hand in there, force a fumble. And the more of those you put on the ground, the more of them are going to become turnovers for the defense. All right, so we've seen Jeremiah playing out in space, playing on the edge, using his explosiveness out there. Well, he's going to be a will linebacker for the Browns. So what can he do from this kind of spot where he's this kind of traditional stacked linebacker inside the box, inside the tackles? How does he hold up in a phone booth? Well, turns out not too bad. He's not the heaviest player in the world, probably playing lighter than his listed weight and his pro day weight at this point in time in the season. But here he is as that kind of weak side linebacker. We got the tight end on the other side of the formation, so he's in the weak side. And it's just a simple run play. So it looks like a inside zone play here. And running back gets a handoff. JOK does have an offensive lineman get to him, but he's able to, again, use that length and some of that athleticism, being able to create some leverage there, right? So becoming the low man in this equation, even though that's probably a 330 pound, offensive lineman, we're able to see JOK get under his pads, stack him, and control his gap to the play side. Now, the running back has already made a decision to cut the run back. But just from a physicality standpoint, I thought this play was nice because this is a big SEC lineman. JOK is still able to get some knockback on that player, even though he's playing light, because he plays with force, because he plays with that bend, that leverage, and the power, right? The speed. He is able to, at times, win. Not really right through a guy, like right through the middle of him and just overpower a 300-pound guy. I think that's a lot to ask of a 200-pound guy. But he's able to kind of pry away at these guys' edges and, be a physical player, right? He's not purely a speed or finesse player. All right, so here's another play with JOK stacked. In fact, in this particular play, it shows off kind of how this defense works. If I go back to the all-22, we're going to see JOK starts lined up out wide as that slot corner, right? And they see something in the play where they're, based on the coverage, based on their personnel, I'm not exactly sure, exactly what Notre Dame was wanting to do or why they're making this adjustment. But JOK decides, I need to actually be the one in the box. We're going to scoot you down, and we're going to kick the other outside linebacker out over the slot on the other side. So, that's how this play ended up playing out. If we go to the end zone, we can actually see here the speed and the athleticism, right? So in this kind of 4-3 look, I know this 42 is standing up, but imagine that's Myles Garrett, right? He's got his hand on the ground. He's in the wide 9 technique, whatever. This is how he's going to have to play with the Browns, and you can see his athleticism win, not just in those big spaces in the flat or in the wide kind of flanks of the field, but you can see his athleticism show up in these small areas as well. In the short kind of phases of the game where it's just quickness kind of back and forth. So you've heard of power in a phone booth. I think JOK's got some quickness in a phone booth. So in any event, right, we got a 4-3 kind of look. You can imagine Browns linebackers, JOK in that kind of weak linebacker spot. This is where I think you want to play him, is behind a player. In this case, it's a 2-eye technique, right? Where no offensive lineman gets a free shot to come off the line and just engulf him right away. Right, you want to kind of have a clogger in front of him or slant with the line or do something where he's got just a fraction of a second to get where he needs to be able to make the play. So this is going to be outside zone that Georgia's going to run to our left, defense's left. So what that means, Outside tackle here is going to try to reach this end. If he can reach him and seal him inside, that's his job. If he tries to reach him and the end plays out, then you just push him to the sideline. Next inside, we got a double team here, and these two are going to be double teaming this down lineman up to JOK. And then on the back side of the play, we have a similar combo block, double teaming this player down lineman up to 40 right there. So this is exactly the running scheme that the Browns run. This is the staple Browns run. You see as it goes outside zone, this guard should have what I've been calling this hand technique, this kind of stiff arm technique, where you just kind of stiff arm him, leave him back behind for your center to come back behind you and clean that block up. Just push him in there. We see that guard comes off the ball, stumbles just half a step, okay, but he is not athletic enough to get out of his stance and go reach JOK all the way outside. And furthermore, JOK is going to use that long arm to be able to push off of these kinds of linemen so that they can't lock their hands onto him. And once he gets by you or gets on kind of on that edge of you, right, then he's able to use that bend and that power and that lower body explosion to turn back inside and go clean up plays, okay? So, this is winning with athleticism in the short space, in just those first 2 steps, 3 steps, being able to beat your blocker just by running around him. This isn't going to happen every play in the NFL, but it will get JOK a head start, right? It will get him on the edge of this player in a position where he can win, and especially in Joe Woods' defense, if we have those Andrew Billings type of defensive linemen inside who can clog things up for him and keep him clean, we're going to see him cleaning up a lot of ball carriers in orange and brown. All right, Browns fans, so that's it for me today. This has been JOK and his kind of role in his college defense, where he lined up there and where he's going to line up for the Browns. In the next JOK video, we're going to be taking a look at maybe some of his kind of versatility, right? His stretch, what he could grow into as a role as a kind of Swiss Army knife in the defense over the next couple of years. So stay tuned for that one. Again, make sure to visit us at dogsbynature.com for all your Cleveland Browns news and analysis. I'm Rufio. Have a good one, and we'll see you in the comments.